The topic of this video is graphing piecewise-defined functions. This is a continuation of the previous problem. Alright, in the previous video we created the graph of the piecewise-defined function, and that is shown here. Now the only thing left to do is to determine whether it is continuous or not and find its domain and range. Alright, so is this continuous? Can I draw the entire blue portion of this curve without picking up my marker? The answer is yes, and for that reason, this graph is continuous. Okay, next, domain. So, for a piecewise defined function, the easiest way to get the domain is by looking at the value stated in the if condition. Remember, domain is a collection of all of the x's. This is telling me about which ones I'm allowed to use, so it's a great way to determine my domain. All right, the top piece says I can use all the numbers between 0 and 1, but not 0 and not 1. So that's all the decimals in there, like 0.1, 0.3, and 0.8, and so on and so on. All of the numbers between 0 and 1, but not 0 and not 1. Then I move on to the next piece, and I'm going to add 1 to the list. Then I move on to the next piece, and I get all the numbers that are bigger than 1. So when you think about it, you start at 0. You go all the way to 1, but not quite 1. Then you get 1, and then you get all the numbers that are bigger than 1. So that's like going from 0 all the way to infinity. And the symbol next to 0 has to be a parenthesis because we are excluding 0 from our collection of numbers because of the inequality symbol. It says less than. It does not say less than or equal to. All right, and now we turn our attention to the range. So what part of this graph is farthest down? Well, that would be this dot right here with coordinates 1, 2. This is range. We want y values. So that means that our range is going to begin at 2. And then it just goes up forever from there. The highest part of the graph would be this arrowhead. And can we connect the low to the high by traveling along the blue curve without picking up our marker? The answer is yes. Therefore, we have all the y values from 2 right on up to positive infinity. So our range goes from 2 to infinity. And the symbol next to the 2 is going to be a bracket. Why? Well, because range is a collection of all the y coordinates of all the points on the graph. This is a point on the graph. Its y coordinate is 2. Therefore, 2 belongs in the range. And what symbol do we use to include? A bracket. All right, that concludes this problem. We created the graph, we determined if it was continuous or not, and we found its domain and range.